In this tutorial, we're going to begin working on the interior set dressing. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've added a little bit more to the outside of our building here. And whenever you're set dressing, you kind of want to pay a lot of attention to the silhouette first of your level. So before we had just a very blank and angular building in our scene, and we had a lot of just blank areas. And so by adding these gas tanks and generators and things like that on top of our building, we've broken up that monotonous straight edge silhouette. And I've also brought in like a gas tank and put up a fence around it and kind of put things off kilter a little bit, making this look a little bit more lived in and used. Okay, so looking at a couple of things really quickly, might want to straighten some things out, like this generator here, these tanks in the middle, seems like they got off just a little bit. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to get into the interior of our level. So we have a lot of heavy objects on top of our building, and we have zero support underneath, so it doesn't really look like that could support anything. So I'm going to create some supports right under our roof here. So let's go to our content browser and let's just type in support. We're going to see that we'll get a couple of different types of objects here. We'll get like a very heavy support. We've got a simple one here that's kind of like a fire escape support. It's very thin, and most of my building has windows on it, so I think this would work best. So I'm going to go ahead and drag one in here, and I'm going to drag that up to my ceiling and rotate that 90 degrees. All right, and then we need to scale this down. So I'm going to go ahead and knock the scale down on this. Let's go ahead and do like 0.5 on each value here, and just kind of see what that gives us. So that seems to be pretty good, a pretty good value for us. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. You might go to like 0.75 at the most. Okay, now I wouldn't even go that high. 0.5 is going to be pretty good for this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of move this over and then hold down Alt and drag. I'm going to make 3 supports on this wall. I'm going to look at my top view, just trying to see if those are pretty close to being even. I'm going to go ahead and move this one over just a little bit. Now with these static meshes, you really don't have to be too terribly careful on the scaling and their positioning. Okay, what does it look like? Does it look good? Does it follow form? Okay, does it follow the function? You know, whenever you create or start set dressing and you start adding content to it, it's important to remember that everything that you put in has to have some sort of function or has to appear as if it has some sort of function. So putting a gas tank out in the middle of nowhere with no pipes or anything like that attached to it really isn't going to be very believable. So you want to watch out for things like that. I'm also going to take these supports and I'm just going to try to line those up the best that I can here. And I'm just looking at the grid lines and where my objects are spaced there. I don't have to be perfect on this. And then I'm going to hold down Alt and copy those and just drag those down to the end here. And we're just going to get pretty close. Try to keep that as even as possible. Now on this side, I don't want to do that because it's going to be right on top of a window where the base of those joints are going to be. So we're going to go ahead and leave it just the way it is. Now these supports, while they do look good in here, I don't think that it would hold up the top of this ceiling here. So what I want to do is add in an I-beam that goes from this plate that I've added in between those windows to this plate. Okay, so let's go to our content browser, and we should have I-beam support in here. And I'm going to use this 256 support here. And I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees in my X, and then I'm going to resize this. So let's close our content browser and let's type in 4 on all 3 of these values here. And that's going to make it pretty large. And notice what else it does. It went all the way out to the edge of this plate. So that's going to be perfect for us. I'm going to go ahead and grab my move tool. I'm going to drag that up there. Okay, and I'm going to get as close to the ceiling as I can. Now I know that that kind of cuts through that concrete there, but that's not really that big of an issue. I think that'll be just fine. Want to make sure that that's kind of centered a little bit better. So we're looking good. Got this I-beam support in here. Let's hit escape really quickly. And it's looking really nice. We've got all those different supports, kind of breaking up the overall look of the level itself. So now we can start to add in like smaller details and things like that. So going to our content browser, I'm going to type in HU, and this is kind of the set that we've been working from throughout this course. And I'm going to add in a few of these different assets in here. So right in here along this wall, I'm going to add in this little kind of valve piece here. And I'm going to rotate it to where the valves are facing me. And I'm just going to move that out a little bit away from that wall. Okay, so we've got something like that. Let's go ahead and add in another object right here along this wall here. So I'm going to go ahead and add this guy. I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees. And then I'm going to position that, kind of center that up on the wall a little bit better. Now notice that it's kind of cutting through the wall on the other side. I'm going to scale this down. Okay, so I'm going to scale it down, go to something kind of right around in here. And I'm going to pull that away from that wall so it's not cutting through any longer. Okay, so we get kind of some sort of contraption here, some sort of valves and things like that. And I'm going to go ahead and put another one right here. And this one, I'm going to spin around 180 degrees. And I'm just going to drop it down. I'm going to leave it the size that it is on this wall. It seems to fit a little bit better. Okay, now inside of our kind of our garage type area or loading dock type of area, I want to add some equipment. So I'm going to add this guy right here. And let me rotate that 90 degrees. And I'm going to lower that to the ground a little bit more. This would be kind of like the height of the character. So if you need to add a little bit of a reference scale in here, you can just drag one of your characters over and just see kind of where that's placed. Okay, so that's probably pretty good. Might go just a little bit lower. Now notice that this is right up against the wall, and I want to kind of pull that away from the wall a little bit. And then I'm going to add a pipe that connects down to the floor. We don't want that to just be floating there. So I'm going to use this straight pipe, and I'm going to scale this. And let's go ahead and put that into position there. And that can fit right in there. Looks just fine. Alright, now I'm going to add in one more object in here. Looking for some sort of panel. There we go. So we have this panel in here. Let's rotate this 90 degrees. And then I'm going to take that pipe that we just added in here, and I'm going to place that underneath this object here. Now I'm going to go ahead and scale this up so that way it fits into that object. Now if need be, you can make that as thin as you need, and then you can go ahead and take the Z value and pump that up to like 0.75 or something like that. And I'm going to take this down to 0.25. I want to make this kind of a smaller pipe, usually with something like electrical piping and things like that. Usually that's a little bit smaller than something like heavy duty wires or plumbing or something like that. I'm just going to set that apart, and I'm going to take these, holding down Control and selecting those. I'm going to hold Alt and move those to this other side just to put it in that room. Okay, so we've got something kind of like that. So you can continue to add in more and more objects in the scene. Now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to add a few more things, not too many. I'm going to add in some lights into the scene, and these are just going to be static meshes. They're not going to be the lights themselves. And this is actually going to get us ready for our next lesson, where we're going to start working on lighting our scene. So I'll see you then.